The names filled the sky above Geneva. 47 million of them. White letters floating against the dark like stars that had learned to spell grief. Yoon Tai stood beneath them with his hands clasped behind his back. He had been standing for 3 hours. His legs ached. His back screamed. He did not move. Somewhere up there, between the MS and the NS, his daughter's name drifted. He had stopped looking for it. Finding it made it real. Not finding it made it worse. A Concord diplomat approached from behind. Tai heard the footsteps. The careful, practiced rhythm of someone who had been trained to walk with sympathy. Admiral Yoon. The voice belonged to something with too many vowels in its name. A Pelori, probably. They were always the ones sent to offer comfort. Their faces were built for sadness. On behalf of the Concord Assembly, I wish to express our deepest. Tai turned his head. Just his head. The rest of his body stayed still. He looked at the diplomat. The Pelori's mouth kept moving for another 2 seconds before its brain caught up with what its eyes were seeing. It stopped talking. Tai said nothing. He simply looked. The way a wolf looks at a deer that has wandered too close. No anger. No threat. Just a patient, absolute attention. The diplomat left. Tai returned to watching the names. 6,000 kilometers away, beneath the streets of Seoul, Kim Sora sat in a room full of screens. Every screen showed something different. Velith children's programs. Velith religious ceremonies. Velith love songs translated into 14 languages. She was eating noodles from a cup. The broth had gone cold an hour ago. She hadn't noticed. On the main screen, a Velith priest was explaining their creation myth. How the first flame had divided itself into a billion sparks to create the Velith people. How each Velith carried a piece of that original fire in their chest. How to harm a Velith was to wound the divine itself. Sora slurped her cold noodles and made a note. Find recordings of this ceremony, she said to her assistant. All variations. Regional differences. Historical versions. May I ask why? Sora pointed her chopsticks at the screen. You want to break someone, you don't hit their body. You hit their story. The thing they tell themselves about who they are. She tapped the image of the priest. This is their story. Every Velith child learns it. Every Velith adult believes it. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. I'm going to rewrite their story. By the time I'm done, they won't remember what they used to believe. They'll just know that whatever it was a lie. Her assistant was quiet for a long time. The Concord won't allow. The Concord, Sora said, can eat my entire ass. She went back to her noodles. The United Earth Assembly met in a building with no windows. This was not an accident. Windows could be watched. Windows could be broken. Windows let people see in. Lee Hanna sat at the head of the long table and waited for the last representatives to take their seats. She was 67 years old. Her hair was white. Her hands were spotted with age. She looked like someone's grandmother. She was someone's grandmother. 2 of them. A boy and a girl. They liked to help her in her garden on weekends. The room fell silent. We have one motion before us today, Hannah said. Her voice was soft. It always was. People had to lean in to hear her. This was not an accident either. The motion is simple. Should humanity remain civilized? The word hung in the air. Civilized. For 60 years, it had meant everything. It was the price of admission to the galaxy. Follow the rules. Sign the treaties. Bow your head when the older species told you to bow. Smile when they patted you on the head and called you promising. Earth had paid that price. Gladly. And then the Velith had burned 3 worlds in 6 hours. 47 million people turned to ash while the Concord watched. The Concord had responded with a formal condemnation. Strongly worded. Very concerned. Sanctions would be implemented in 18 months, pending review. 18 months. Hannah had grandchildren. She thought about them now. How the Velith had grandchildren too, once. On Colony Hannah 3. On New Seoul. On Busan Reach. All in favor of remaining civilized, she said. Raise your hands. No hands rose. All in favor of other measures. Every hand in the room went up. Hannah nodded. She had known the answer before she asked. She had simply needed it to be official. Then we are in agreement. Prepare the broadcast. The broadcast went out 17 hours later. Every frequency, every language, every ship, station, colony, and homeworld in known space. Hannah's face appeared on screens across the galaxy. That soft grandmother's face. Those gentle eyes. We came to you as a civilized people, she said. We followed your laws. We trusted your justice. We built our homes among the stars because you told us we were welcome. We believed you. She paused. The pause was deliberate. Long enough for translator systems to catch up. Long enough for the words to sink in. The Velith killed 47 million of our people. Our children. Our elders. Our families. They burned them alive while they slept. And you, the Great Concord, the light of civilization, you wrote a letter. You scheduled a meeting. You promised sanctions in 18 months. Another pause. We have received your message. We understand now what civilization means to you. It means rules for the weak, patience for the grieving, justice for no one. Her voice did not rise. It did not shake. It remained soft, gentle, grandmother quiet. So be it. She leaned forward, just slightly. The movement was small. The effect was not. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from all treaties, all conventions, all laws of war. We renounce the protections of civilization because we no longer recognize its authority. We are not civilized. We are not patient. We are not forgiving. She smiled. We are something older. Something you forgot existed. Something you should have remembered before you burned our children. The smile faded. We are coming. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, silence fell. Diplomats looked at each other. Commanders checked their defense systems. Intelligence officers pulled up everything they had on human history. What they found made them very, very quiet. The Velith High Command watched the broadcast 17 times. They laughed the first 3. By the 17th, they had stopped laughing. Their military advisor, an old soldier who had studied human conflicts, was asked for his assessment. He was quiet for a long time. We made a mistake, he finally said. They are one species. We have allies. We have numbers. The advisor shook his head. You do not understand. I have studied their history. What they did to each other before they reached the stars. He looked at the council. His eyes were very old. They nearly exterminated themselves a dozen times. Not because they had to. Because they were angry. He stood up. We just made them angry. He left the room. He did not come back. In Geneva, Yun Tai still stood beneath the names. A young aide approached him with a tablet. Sir, the broadcast is complete. All fleets are awaiting orders. Tai did not look at her. He was looking at the sky, at the place where his daughter's name floated among millions. Sir, tell them to prepare for departure, he said. His voice was quiet, calm, the voice of a man who had already made every decision he would ever need to make. We leave in 72 hours. Where are we going, sir? Tai finally looked at her. Everywhere they've ever loved, he said. Everywhere they've ever felt safe. We are going to teach them what it feels like to watch everything burn. He looked back at the names. It's the only lesson they'll understand. The Velith expected a war. Fleets against fleets. Armies against armies. The kind of conflict civilized species had fought for 10,000 years. Rules. Boundaries. Acceptable losses. They prepared for that war. They built their defenses. They called their allies. They positioned their ships in perfect formation and waited for humanity to come screaming across the void. Humanity did not come screaming. Humanity came quiet. Park June dropped from the night sky onto a Velith agricultural moon called Tendergrowth. It was a peaceful name for a peaceful place. Rolling fields of grain that stretched to the horizon. Fat silos filled with seed. Irrigation systems that turned desert into garden. No military value. No strategic importance. Just farms. Farms that fed the Velith homeworld. June's team spread across the fields like shadows. 12 soldiers. No armor. No heavy weapons. Just knives and fire and patience. By morning, the fields were black. The silos were poisoned. The irrigation systems pumped salt into soil that had taken 300 years to cultivate. June found a worker hiding in a storage shed. Young. Terrified. June pulled him out by the collar and held him up like a child. "Look," June said. He pointed at the burning fields. "Remember this." The worker was crying. June did not care. "Tell your leaders what you saw. Tell them this. We are not here to defeat you. We are here to unmake you. Everything you built. Everything you grew. Everything you loved." He dropped the worker in the dirt. "We are going to take it all. And we are going to make you watch." He walked away. The worker survived. He delivered the message. The Velith High Command did not believe him. Surely this was an isolated incident. Surely the humans would attack proper military targets next. They were wrong. Kim Sora worked in a bunker filled with sound. Velith prayers played on loop. Velith lullabies. Velith wedding songs. She had listened to them so many times she heard them in her sleep. She did not sleep much anymore. Her team had finished the first weapon. Not a bomb. Not a virus. Something worse. A recording. It was the Velith creation myth, the story of the first flame that divided itself to create all Velith. Every child learned it. Every adult believed it. It was the foundation of their entire culture. Sora's version was different. Same words. Same melody. Same ancient structure. But twisted. Corrupted. Small changes that planted doubt. The first flame did not divide itself out of love. It divided because it was forced. The sparks were not gifts. They were wounds. To be Velith was not to carry divine fire. It was to be a piece of something that had been broken against its will. The changes were subtle. You had to listen carefully to notice them. But once you noticed, you could not notice. Sora broadcast the corrupted myth on every Velith frequency. Hidden in static. Buried in background noise. You didn't have to listen to it consciously. Your brain picked it up anyway. Within 3 weeks, Velith clergy began reporting strange thoughts during prayer. Doubt where there had been faith. Questions where there had been certainty. Within 6 weeks, the suicide rate among religious leaders tripled. Sora read the reports and made notes for version 2. Admiral Yun Tai's fleet found the Velith armada near a gas giant called Singer's Rest. The Velith outnumbered him 3 to 1. Their ships were larger. Their weapons were heavier. By every calculation, they should have won. The Velith commander, a decorated warrior named First Strike Endless, opened communications. "Human Admiral, you are outmatched. Surrender your fleet and your crew will be treated with honor. Continue, and you will be destroyed." Tai did not respond. "Human Admiral, acknowledge." Silence. First Strike Endless felt something cold move through his chest. He had studied human tactics. They were emotional creatures. They should be raging, threatening, making noise. The silence was wrong. A message arrived. Not audio. Text. 3 lines. The first was coordinates. First Strike Endless recognized them. His homeworld. His family estate. The school his daughter attended. The second line, "We know where everyone you love sleeps." The third line, "Do you?" First Strike Endless stared at the message for a long time. "Sir." His tactical officer was waiting. "Shall we engage?" The Velith commander thought about his daughter. She was 7 years old. She liked to collect rocks and arrange them in patterns that only made sense to her. "Hold position," he said. "Sir." "I said hold position." The human fleet did not advance. It simply waited. Patient. Quiet. First Strike Endless sent a message to the Velith homeworld. "Urgent." Classified. The response came 12 hours later. His daughter's school had been evacuated. His family had been moved to a secure location. He felt relief for exactly 3 seconds. Then another message arrived from the human fleet. A picture this time. His daughter's rock collection, photographed through a window. Timestamp, 2 hours ago. They were already there. They had been there the whole time. First Strike Endless ordered his fleet to withdraw. He never commanded again. The Galactic Concord called an emergency session. Something had to be done. The humans were not fighting a war. They were performing an execution in slow motion. This is barbarism, declared the Pelori ambassador. This is genocide by other means. They are targeting civilian infrastructure, added the methane collective delegate. Food supplies. Water systems.
Cultural archive.
This violates every law of. What law? The human ambassador stood. Her name was Cho Yuna. She was young and smiled too easily. We withdrew from your laws. You watched us do it. You had 18 months of warnings and you did nothing. You cannot simply declare yourself outside civilization. We didn't declare ourselves outside. We removed ourselves because civilization failed us. 47 million dead. You wrote a letter. The chamber fell silent. Here is what happens now, Yuna continued. We will continue our operations against the Velith Dominion. We will continue until they no longer exist as a coherent society. Not their bodies, their ideas, their culture, their belief that they have a right to exist. You would exterminate a species. Yuna tilted her head. No. We would exterminate their sense of self. Their children will grow up not knowing what it meant to be Velith. Their language will drift. Their rituals will fade. They will still breathe. They will simply be. Nothing in particular. She smiled. Isn't that civilized? No one dies. They just forget. The Pelori ambassador stared at her. You are monsters. Yes, Yuna agreed. We are. You made us that way. She sat down. The session adjourned without resolution. That night, 17 Concord species received the same message through back-channel communications. The message contained a single file. When opened, the file displayed detailed information about each species, population centers, cultural practices, psychological vulnerabilities, supply chain dependencies, the kind of information you would gather if you were planning to do to them what humanity was doing to the Velith.
No demands. No threats.
Just information. A simple reminder. Humanity had been watching everyone. For 60 years, they had smiled and nodded and followed the rules. And the whole time, they had been learning. Learning how to end each of them if they ever needed to. The 17 species did not sleep well that night. They did not sleep well for months. On the Velith homeworld, a mother held her child and tried to sing the lullaby her mother had sung to her. The words came out wrong. Twisted. The melody felt broken. She stopped singing. Mama, her child asked. What's wrong? The mother did not know how to answer. Something was wrong with her memories. Something was wrong with everything she thought she knew. She held her child tighter and said nothing. Across the planet, in a billion homes, the same scene played out. Parents forgetting songs. Elders questioning stories. Children asking questions no one could answer. The Velith were not dying. They were dissolving. And humanity was just getting started. 14 months after the massacre, the Velith Dominion still existed on maps. But maps lie. Their fleet was scattered. Their economy was broken. Refugees poured across borders into any territory that would accept them, and fewer territories accepted them every day. No one wanted to be seen helping the species that humanity had marked for erasure. The Concord watched. And remembered. Every species had their own history with humans. Small moments. Forgotten insults. Times when human diplomats had smiled and nodded while their eyes stayed cold. They had never thought about those moments before. Now they could not stop thinking about them. Lee Hanna stood before the Concord assembly. She had refused the podium. Instead, she stood on the main floor, surrounded by hundreds of alien delegates, close enough to touch. You requested this meeting, she said. You demanded that humanity explain ourselves. Very well. I will explain. She raised her hand. The chamber lights dimmed. Above her, holographic images began to appear. This is Earth. 1945. A mushroom cloud bloomed in the darkness. We built a weapon that could destroy cities in seconds. Then we used it. Twice. On ourselves. The image changed. Mass graves. Skeletal bodies stacked like firewood. This is Earth. 1944. We built facilities designed for the efficient murder of millions. Factories of death. We operated them for years. New images. New horrors. Rwanda. Cambodia. The Holodomor. The Middle Passage. We have done this to ourselves over and over again. Not because we were forced. Not because we had no choice. Because we were angry. Because we were afraid. Because we could. The images faded. The lights returned. Hannah looked around the chamber. Every face was pale. Every eye was fixed on her. You invited us into your civilization before we finished becoming civilized ourselves. We accepted. We played by your rules. We hid our nature. We were grateful for the chance to pretend we had evolved past what we were. She smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then you burned our children. And you expected us to stay pretend. Silence. You called us monsters yesterday. You were right. We are monsters. We have always been monsters. We simply decided to stop hiding it. She walked toward the exit. Stopped at the door. The Velith will serve as your reminder. Look at what we are doing to them. Remember it. And the next time you think about harming a human, remember that we did not forget how to do this. We were simply being polite. She left. The assembly did not recover for hours. Bak Suho had his mother's eyes and his father's height. Human enough to walk through Earth streets without stairs. Velith enough to feel his father's people dying. He found Admiral Yun Tai on the observation deck of the flagship, staring at stars that looked the same as they always had. Stars didn't care about genocide. Admiral. Tai did not turn around. I know why you're here. Then you know what I'm going to say. You're going to tell me we've gone too far. That we're destroying something that cannot be rebuilt. That my daughter would not want this. Suho said nothing. That was exactly what he had planned to say. You're half right. Tai finally turned. His face was tired. Not angry. Just exhausted. We have gone too far. We cannot rebuild what we've destroyed. But you're wrong about my daughter. You don't know what she would have wanted. No. I don't. That's the point. Tai's voice cracked. Just for a moment. Then it steadied. She was 11. She liked drawing. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She never got to become anything. I don't know who she would have grown into. What she would have believed. What she would have wanted. He looked back at the stars. The Velith took all of that. Every possibility. Every future. 47 million futures, burned to ash. So you burned their futures in return. Yes. And that makes us what? Better than them. Dialoguehead. It was not a happy sound. No. It makes us exactly the same. That's the point. He looked at Suho. Really looked. You want to believe there's a moral difference. That we can be the righteous victims. The good guys. Can't we? No. We can only be the ones who survive. The ones who make them afraid enough to never try this again. He turned back to the window. Everything else is story we tell ourselves. Suho left. He did not sleep that night. Park Jun's Reaper team was ambushed on a Velith border moon. Bad intelligence. Someone had talked. The first 5 minutes were chaos. Weapons fire. Screaming. Blood in the air like mist. When the dust settled, June was alone. His team was dead. 12 soldiers who had followed him through hell. Gone in 300 seconds. He ran. For 3 weeks, he moved through Velith territory like a ghost.
No supplies.
No communications.
No backup.
Just him and whatever he could scavenge. The Velith hunted him with 200 soldiers. One by one, the hunters became the hunted. June did not think about strategy. He did not plan. He simply moved. Watched. Waited. Killed. Persistence hunting. The oldest human technique. You didn't have to be faster than your prey. You just had to be more patient. More stubborn. More willing to keep going when everything said to stop. When extraction finally arrived, they found him sitting in a clearing surrounded by 18 bodies. He was eating a ration bar. Calm. Clean. Like he had just finished a morning jog. Sir. The extraction leader stared at the bodies. What happened? June chewed, swallowed, considered the question. They thought numbers would help. They brought 200. He took another bite. Should have brought more. The extraction team did not ask any more questions. The galaxy began to talk. Whispers at first. Then louder. Stories about humans that had seemed exaggerated were re-examined. Their history of war. Their capacity for sustained hatred. The way they could smile at you for decades while planning your destruction. A methane collective scientist compiled a study. Human endurance versus other species. The results were disturbing. Humans could survive injuries that would kill most species. They could function without sleep for days. They healed from wounds that should have been fatal. And most disturbing of all, they could maintain hatred across generations. Parents teaching children to hate enemies they had never met. Grudges lasting centuries. The study was classified immediately. But the data leaked. Species that had considered themselves humanity's friends began to reconsider. They pulled up old diplomatic records. Looked at conversations through new eyes. Every smile looked different now. The Velith High Council sent a delegation to Earth. They arrived with nothing. No weapons.
No demands. No prive.
They knelt before Lee Hanna in a chamber that had once hosted peace talks. Now it hosted surrender. We offer complete capitulation, the lead delegate said. His voice shook. Reparations. Territory. Our military will be dissolved. Our government will submit to human oversight. Whatever you want. Please. Just stop. Hannah sat in her chair and said nothing for a long time. 47 million, she finally said. We will pay. Whatever the cost. You have already paid 600,000. Through deaths. Through displacement. Through the slow destruction of everything that made you who you are. The delegate nodded desperately. Yes. And we will pay more. Whatever you require. Hannah leaned forward. 47 million minus 600,000. That is how many remain. That is how long this continues. The delegate's face collapsed. But that would take years. Decades. Yes. You would destroy us entirely.
No.
I would make you pay the exact price you forced us to pay. No more. No less. She stood. You burned our future. We will burn yours. When the debt is settled, we will stop. She walked to the door. But not before. The delegation returned to what was left of the Velith homeworld. They reported what they had learned. The council understood now. This was not a war. This was a bill coming due. And humanity intended to collect every cent. 2 years after the massacre, the Velith Dominion existed on paper. That was all. Their worlds were quiet. Not empty. Quiet. The difference was important. People still lived there. Ate. Slept. Breathed. But something essential had been removed. The thing that made them Velith. The stories. The songs. The shared understanding of who they were. Humanity had not killed them. Humanity had erased them. And now other species were lining up to make sure they were never erased. Earth began offering protection agreements to smaller species. The terms were simple. Accept human observers. Allow human bases. Support human positions in Concord votes. In return, humanity would guarantee their safety. No one asked what safety meant. No one wanted to know. 17 species signed within the first month. 43 more by the end of the year. The Concord watched helplessly as power shifted like sand in a storm. The humans smiled through every negotiation. Polite. Reasonable. Civilized. No one believed the smiles anymore. Kim Sora sat in her bunker and stared at her final creation. A mimetic weapon designed to attack language itself. Velith children exposed to it would slowly lose the ability to think in their native tongue. Within 2 generations, Velith would exist only in history books. The weapon was beautiful. Elegant. Perfect. She could not press the button. Her assistant found her there 3 hours later. Still staring. Still not moving. Mum? The upload is ready. Command is waiting. Sora said nothing. Mum. When I was a girl, Sora said, I wanted to be a translator. I loved languages. The way different species thought differently because they spoke differently. The way words shape minds. She laughed. It sounded like glass breaking. Now look at me. I'm about to murder a language. Kill a way of thinking. And no one will ever know what was lost because there will be no one left who remembers. Her assistant shifted uncomfortably. The Velith killed 47 million. I know what they did. Sora's voice was sharp. Then soft again. I know. And I wanted them to pay. I still want them to pay. But this. She gestured at the screen. This isn't payment. This is erasure. This is pretending they never existed. Isn't that what they tried to do to us? Sora looked at her assistant. Young. Angry. Certain. She remembered being certain. Yes, she said. It is. And if we do the same thing, what exactly did we win? She deleted the file. Her supervisor would be furious. There would be consequences. She did not care. Some weapons should never be used, even by monsters. Yun Tai returned to Geneva for the first time in 18 months. The memorial was still there. The names still floated in the sky. But they looked different now. Or maybe he looked different. He found his daughter's name. Finally. After 2 years of avoiding it. There it was. White letters against the black. Just a name. He stood beneath it and waited to feel something. Grief. Anger. Satisfaction. Anything. He felt nothing. That scared him more than anything else.
On aide approached.
Young. Nervous. Sir. Secretary General Hannah requests your presence. Tai nodded but did not move. Sir. What do you think of the memorial? Tai asked. The aide blinked. Sir. The names. 47 million. What do you think when you look at them? The aide considered the question. I think about why we fight. What we are avenging. Do you remember any of them? Their faces? Their voices? Or just numbers? Silence. I can't remember my daughter's voice anymore, Tai said. I try. Every night. I close my eyes and try to hear her. And there's nothing. Just silence where she used to be. He finally looked at the aide. We are not avenging them. We are using them. Using their deaths to justify what we wanted to do anyway. He looked back at the sky. I'm not sure those are different things. But I'm not sure they're the same either. He walked away. The aide did not know what to say. Bak Suho moved through shadows. He had contacts on both sides now. Humans who doubted. Velith who were willing to do anything to survive. Together, they had built something fragile. A chance. The last Velith Council had agreed to terms no one would have imagined 2 years ago. Complete submission. Total reparations. Anything humanity wanted. All they needed was someone on Earth willing to accept. Suho brought the offer to the assembly. He stood before representatives who had voted unanimously for vengeance and asked them to consider mercy. The chamber was divided. We cannot stop now, one faction argued. We have shown the galaxy what happens when you harm humanity. If we show weakness, others will test us. But if we continue, another faction countered. We become what we hate. We become the species that exterminates. The galaxy will unite against us. Let them try. And how many will die in that war? How many humans? Back and forth. Hour after hour. No resolution. Suho watched and understood something terrible. Humanity had learned to be monsters. Some of them had discovered they liked it. Park Jun stood before his assembled Reapers. 200 soldiers now. The most dangerous unit in human history. They had turned the tide of a war that wasn't a war. Today, they had received new orders. Final protocol, Jun said. Command has authorized the complete cultural extinction of the Velith. Every archive. Every artifact. Every record of who they were. We are to destroy it all. His soldiers nodded. Ready. Eager. One raised a hand. Young. Had lost family on New Sol. When do we begin, sir? Jun looked at him. Then at the others. He saw himself in their eyes. The hunger. The righteousness. The absolute certainty that what they were doing was justified. He had felt that certainty once. Tell me why, Jun said. The The young soldier blinked. Sir. Why do we do this? Give me the reason. Because of what they did. 47 million. And is that why you want to continue? For them. For the dead. June stepped closer. Or is it because you like it? Because hurting them feels good? Silence. There's no shame in the truth. I felt it too. The satisfaction. The power. Watching them suffer and knowing we caused it. He turned away. But satisfaction ends. Power fades. And one day you wake up and realize you've become exactly what you hated. And there's no going back. So what do we do? June did not answer for a long time. I don't know, he finally said. But I know this. If we complete Final Protocol, we won't be human anymore. We'll be something else. Something I don't have a name for. He looked at his soldiers. I'm tired. I've been tired for months. And I'm starting to think that being tired is the only thing keeping me human. The request for Final Protocol reached Lee Hanna's desk that night. A simple authorization. One signature. The Velith would cease to exist as a distinct culture within a generation. Hanna held the document and thought about her garden. The wayflowers needed both sun and rain. The way too much of either killed them. She thought about her grandchildren. What kind of galaxy they would inherit. She thought about 47 million names floating in the sky above Geneva. She thought about what it meant to be human. The document sat on her desk, unsigned, as the night grew long. Outside her window, the stars did not care what she decided. Stars never do. But morning was coming. And with it, a choice that would determine what humanity became. The final days arrived not with thunder but with silence. Across the galaxy, every species watched Earth. Waiting. The Velith homeworld's defense grid had collapsed. Their fleet was scattered. Their government existed only because humanity allowed it to exist. One order. One word. And the Velith would be the first species in galactic history to be deliberately erased. The universe held its breath. Park June's Reapers were positioned on 6 Velith moons. Final Protocol was loaded and ready.
Cultural archive.
Historical sites. Religious temples. Educational facilities. Everything that made the Velith who they were. One command. One button. Gone. June stood in the command center and watched his soldiers wait. They were ready. Some were eager. A few looked uncertain. The young soldier from before, his name was Han Kyun, approached. Sir, we are still waiting for authorization. I know. How long do we wait? June did not answer immediately. He was looking at a screen showing a Velith school. Children moved behind windows. Playing. Learning. Unaware that their entire civilization's memory hung by a thread. Do you know why humans are good at war? June asked. Because we don't give up. That's part of it. But there's something else. Something worse. He turned to face Kyun. We are good at war because we can make ourselves not see the enemy as people. We can look at children through a scope and see targets. We can burn cities and see statistics. He looked back at the screen. That's our gift. Our curse. The thing that makes us terrifying. He paused. And right now, I'm looking at those children and I'm trying very hard to see them as people again. Because if I can't do that, then winning this war cost more than losing it ever would. Kyung was quiet for a long time. Are you saying we should stop? I'm saying I'm tired of not seeing people. I'm tired of being a monster. And I'm starting to think being tired is the only thing that makes us different from them. The authorization light blinked on his console. He did not press it. Kim Sora sat in her empty bunker. The screens were dark. The weapons were deleted. Her life's work, the most sophisticated psychological warfare system in history, was gone. Her supervisor had called her a traitor, threatened prosecution, demanded she rebuild what she had destroyed. She had laughed at him. Now she was alone, waiting for consequences that did not seem to come. A knock at the door. Not military. Soft. An old woman entered. White hair. Gentle eyes. The most dangerous human alive. Secretary General. Sora stood. I wasn't expecting.
Sit.
Hannah sat in the chair opposite her. I came to ask you something. Whether I'll rebuild the weapon?
Non.
That's not what I came to ask. Hannah folded her hands. I came to ask why. Not why you deleted it. I read your report. I understand that. I want to know why you built it in the first place. Sora was quiet. I was angry, she finally said. I wanted them to hurt. Not just die. Hurt. Understand what they had taken from us. And now I understand that hurt doesn't heal anything. It just creates more hurt. She looked at her hands. I wanted revenge. I got it. And it tastes like ash. Hannah nodded slowly. That's why I haven't signed the final protocol authorization. Sora looked up. I've been holding that document for 3 days, Hannah continued. Every morning I pick it up. Every evening I put it down. And I keep asking myself, what would I be if I signed it? What would we become? Monsters. We are already monsters. The question is whether we stay monsters. Whether we let this become who we are forever. She stood. Come with me. I'm going to make a broadcast. I want you there. The Concord assembly was empty except for broadcast equipment. Hannah stood before the camera. Sora watched from the shadows. Across the galaxy, billions of beings tuned in to hear humanity's final decision. Hannah's face filled screens on every world. 2 years ago, she began, I stood before you and declared that humanity was no longer civilized. I meant every word. We showed you what that declaration looked like. We became the monsters your grandparents told stories about. She paused. The Velith burned 47 million of our people. We have taken more than that from them. Not lives, something worse. We took their history, their culture, their sense of who they were. We proved that we could erase a species without killing a single individual. Her voice softened. It would have been easy to finish. One more step. One final order. The Velith would have become a footnote. A warning. An example. She shook her head. But that's not who we want to be. That's not what we want our children to become. We proved our point. The galaxy understands now what humanity is capable of. They will never forget. She leaned forward. That is enough. She straightened. As of this moment, humanity re-enters the Galactic Concord. All treaties are restored. All conventions are binding. The operations against the Velith are ended. She looked directly into the camera. But make no mistake. We remember what we are. We remember what we can do. We chose to stop. We can choose differently. She smiled. Not warmth. Warning. Never make us choose again. The broadcast ended. The Concord met in emergency session within hours. For the first time in history, every species was present. Every vote was cast. Unanimous. The civilian protection absolute became galactic law. Any species that targeted civilian populations would be expelled from the Concord immediately. No trial. No appeal.
No delay.
The punishment was not specified. Everyone understood what it would be. Earth would be notified. That was enough. Yoon Tai returned to the memorial one last time. The names still floated in the sky. They always would. He found his daughter's name and stood beneath it. I don't know if what we did was right, he said to no one. To her. I don't know if you would have wanted any of it. I don't know if I'm a hero or a monster or something in between. The wind moved through the plaza. But it's over now. We stopped. That has to count for something. He touched his chest. The place where grief lived. I still can't remember your voice. Maybe I never will. But I remember that you were kind. You were gentle. You would have hated what I became. He closed his eyes. I'm going to try to become something else now. I don't know what. Something that could look you in the eye without shame. He opened his eyes. I miss you. He walked away. He did not look back. Years passed. A new species made first contact with the Concord. They called themselves the Van. They were young, curious, eager to join the galactic community. Their ambassador arrived at Concord Station for welcoming ceremonies. Every major species sent representatives. The Van ambassador noticed something strange. Whenever the human delegate spoke, the room fell quiet. Not hostile quiet. Careful quiet. The way prey animals watch a predator that isn't currently hunting. Afterward, the ambassador asked a Pelori diplomat about it. What is the relationship between humans and the other species? There seems to be tension. The Pelori was quiet for a long moment. Not tension. Respect. Respect? They seem almost afraid. That is the respect. The humans are different. They were civilized once. Then they chose not to be. Then they chose to be civilized again. I don't understand. The Pelori looked at the human delegation across the room. They were laughing. Friendly. Warm. There is an old story. A species called the vaulat. They harmed humanity once. Badly. And humanity responded by nearly erasing them from existence. Not through weapons. Through thoroughness. What happened to the vaulat? They still exist. Barely. A broken people who spend their days trying to remember what they used to believe in. The Pelori shuddered. The humans could have finished them. Ended them completely. But they stopped. They chose to stop. That seems merciful. It was not mercy. It was message. The Pelori turned to face the ambassador. Every species in this room knows that humans stopped because they wanted to, not because they had to. And every species knows they could start again if they chose. The ambassador looked at the humans. They were still laughing, smiling, civilized. So everyone is polite because we remember what happened when someone wasn't. The ambassador considered this. How do we ensure good relations with them? The Pelori's answer was simple. Do not harm them. Do not threaten them. Do not give them reason to remember what they are capable of. The ambassador nodded slowly. And if we follow those rules, then they will be the kindest, most generous allies you could hope for. They will trade fairly, defend loyally, give without expectation. The Pelori looked at the humans one more time. Just never make them take off the mask. The ambassador did not forget that advice. Neither did any other species who heard the story. And in the centuries that followed, humanity was treated with careful, measured respect. The kind of respect you give to something that once showed you its teeth, and smiled while doing it.